octopus.
Yeah.
Which was a squid?
It was a Dumbo.
No.
No, it was a
Vampire
squid.
squid.
And nobody
So
names
I'm not a
a
biologist.
shipwreck. I'm offended. I guess it's worthwhile to point out that while we are collecting data with the purposes of locating the Samoan clipper, we are also very aware of the habitat that it's going to reside in and any critters and fish that we encounter. So we are logging those so that biologists can go back at a later time and use that information. So we always do double duty and have various disciplines that we are trying to cover.
Right, and I think you described the seafloor here as a muddy bottom, right? Is that sort of based on the side scan sonar what we're sort of seeing?
Yeah, a combination of the side scan sonar as well as we are lucky enough to have eyeballs on the seafloor from Argus's camera. So that's a very unusual opportunity to have that combination. Typically it's one or the other. So we can confirm the seafloor by looking at the camera.
And we're diving to a depth of a little more than 3,000 meters. Where are we now?
Sorry, what was the question?
What depth are we at now?
Right now?
Yeah.
2,100.
All right, so more than halfway there. All right, we have another round of blue water question game. It's the official title for it. Forgetting logistics, throw the logistics aside, what famous shipwreck would you personally want to visit if you had the opportunity?
Sorry, I missed part of that question.
Okay, so forgetting logistics, put all of those aside, what famous shipwreck would you most want to visit? I know, it's a big question.
Yeah, I don't know my marine archaeology. Any of them, they're all a lot of fun. Having dove a couple U-boats and other boats in the Gulf of Mexico, they're very unique and they're interesting. You know, for me, just being the first time I've seen them, even if they are discovered and sort of documented before we get there. It's kind of a non-answer.
All right, well, we are just approaching midnight here, American Samoa time, and we have viewers from all over the world tuning in with us. It's really, really cool. So we have the US, the UK, Germany, France, Sweden, Norway, Ireland, Canada, Australia, and Turkey. Thanks for diving with us, everyone. And for those of you that are just tuning in, Argus is descending. He's about 2/3 of the way down to the ocean floor. We are implementing some side scan sonar. So we're mapping the ocean floor, looking for anomalies or anything that gives us an indication of a human-made object. And this is an Argus-only dive, just in terms of making it a little bit quicker and more efficient for that mapping. The team here is pinpointing any potential targets as we see them come in, and then in the next day or two, over the course of the next few dives, Hercules will head down and do a little bit more in-depth characterizing, adding in that video and the photo component that we all love. The survey area is about 2 square miles, and Argus is conducting, once it gets down there, a lawnmower pattern, which is, as the name suggests, kind of going back and forth along that 2 square mile radius in terms of mapping those sort of anomalies along the seafloor. Again, we're searching for the Samoan Clipper. It was a Pan American Airways plane that is believed to have exploded and crashed into the sea northwest of Pongo Pongo, American Samoa. That was in January of 1938. So in doing so, our team is working to characterize a site that is significant in aviation and American Samoan history. As well, this is the final resting place of 7 aviation pioneers who were aboard that flight, including Pan American Airways chief pilot Captain Ed Musick. He was a pioneer again in the aviation industry, had thousands of aviation hours logged, and was really at the forefront and set precedents for sort of the commercial aviation industry as we see it today. And the Samoan Clipper, the plane itself, it was a 4-engine S-42B, what Pan Am called a flying boat. So as its name suggests, it was built to land on the water. And this was in an effort to eventually get folks to places that might be more difficult to land, that didn't have landing strips, especially Pongo Pongo, American Samoa. If you've ever been there, the harbor where Samoan Clipper would land was pretty tight. The plane actually had to come over a ridge before landing into this sort of inlet area, and we were actually docked there just last night. We were at port before shoving off this morning. So it was a pretty cool experience to be staying in that same place, that the Samoan Clipper had been.
Good job. Yeah, I heard about your stage fright.
So in terms of the question that just came in about the significant wreckage of the Samoan Clipper based on the explosion, we don't really have much information besides that eyewitness account about the actual explosion of the Samoan Clipper after it had that emergency landing. But the thought generally is that the wing section, which was 118 feet and 2 inches long, and 13 feet wide, was still intact and was actually floating for about 5 minutes or so before sinking, and that other portions of the plane may still be intact, such as maybe the front and the tail of the wing, excuse me, or the tail of the plane. But you know, just like anything else as we explore the ocean, we won't know until we actually find it, and that's the great part that you're exploring with us now, is that the Samoan Clipper hasn't been seen since 1938 on that fateful day, and we are doing our best to change that right now.
Hey, Brian, Megan and Russ checking in from the back row.
Glad to have you here.
Hey guys, how are things back there?
Steamy.
On the other side of the wall here.
Doing great.
Brian and I are at the kids' table in the kitchen.
Happy to be on the sleepy time watch.
We'll make it exciting no matter what time of day.
Yeah.
How'd you guys sleep?
You know, it was like a nap.
Anxiously?
No. We've already done this before once.
Lonnie, we have some questions for you, or one about some of the, maybe some interesting stories about some of the work you've done. And I don't know if you've been to Istanbul?
Oh, we should all bet on that first. I'm absolutely betting that she has.
That's right.
Yeah.
I lived there twice.
Oh,
man.
We should have figured.
Twice. Once as an American Field Service high school student, and another time with U.S. Consulate in the 70s.
Wow.
For 3 years.
Wow.
And
Was
how were
that the
those times?
question?
Yeah. So how, do you have any awesome stories from them? Or just in general, because you're Lonnie and you have awesome stories?
Absolutely. I saw this ship quite often. coming up through the Bosphorus, and I have pictures of it from the 70s, and we all had names for the ship, but it was pretty awesome sight to see it coming up through the straits toward the Black Sea.
Nice. It looked a little different back then.
A little bit.
It was missing a giant ball.
It was
Less
all white.
Nautilus-y.
Yeah. And we've done some improvements, especially to the deck below us. And we've added a little bit of technology.
Just a tad.
skosh.
Just a scotch.
So we have a question coming in about wrecks and the species that might be found on them. We're going to be at pretty significant depths for this, so we don't anticipate there being a significant amount of species on a wreck like this, but in maybe shallower wrecks where there are more species that are grown, is there maybe a species that of any type of organism that's kind of well associated with growing on any type of wreckage?
Isn't this aircraft mostly aluminum or aluminium?
Correct.
Yeah, so my experience, just observational, I'm not a scientist, is that there's not many organisms that like to use that as a substrate.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, you're correct. There's not a lot that will grow on aircraft, especially in the deep. And that's completely the opposite to other archaeologically considered wrecks, like iron-based or wood-based wrecks.
Are there any creatures that are specifically fond of iron or wood-based wrecks?
Oh, man.
Or is it just kind of...
Oh, that's a good question. I'm
Anemones?
thinking about it. Yeah, we have seen a couple anemones on the bottom, but it's hard to tell before we see the wreck.
Wood wrecks frequently have worms.
Yeah, ship-boring worms.
Yeah. Although the wrecks that were copper-clad, in large part, get protected from that.
Because copper is toxic to invertebrates, right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And that's, I think, the reason for why they were clad in copper. I've never worked in freshwater, but I've heard that, like the Great Lakes in North America, the wrecks are very well preserved there.
That used to be the case, and since we introduced mussels into those lakes to clear up the water, they've attached themselves to the wrecks, and they're now deteriorating the wrecks, including actually the aircraft wrecks. That's one of the places where aircraft wrecks resemble other archaeological submerged resources, is that they are also being attached, or sorry, they also have mussels that are attached to them in the Great Lakes area. And it's a...
And mussels were an invasive species that was purposely introduced?
Purposely introduced because the water quality and visibility was so poor. The lakes at one time were somewhat polluted, and so we introduced them as a ways to filter the water and get that water quality a bit better.
Was that by chance back in, was it the 60s or 70s?
I think it was the
then?
90s.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Oh.
I think. I could be wrong on that one.
I was guessing the 70s because I think that's when that river in Ohio caught fire.
Oh, dear.
Yes. I grew up in southeast Michigan, and water quality was definitely a concern on a regular basis. So for those of you who are joining us, it is just after midnight here in just off of Pongo Pongo, American Samoa, and we are currently diving Argus down, and we're doing it a bit differently than what we typically do in the past. We're used to probably seeing Hercules and Argus. We're only going to have Argus in the water for the time being, because we are on the search for the Samoan Clipper. So what we are doing is, as Argus will reach its eventual depth of just over 3,000 meters, we're actually going to start to tow Argus around our search area, which is about 2 square miles. We're going to be probably traveling 1 knot or maybe a little bit less, keeping Argus about 10 or so meters above the ocean floor. And we're going to be using Argus's side scan sonar, and when we get there you'll be able to see that as well on one of the feeds, and we'll be identifying some diving targets. That way we can dive Hercules again down with Argus like we typically do, to hopefully find the wreckage of the Samoan Clipper. The Samoan Clipper was a Sikorsky S-42B type flying boat, and unfortunately in January 11th of 1938, with 751 pounds of express cargo, about 2,300 gallons of gasoline for its final 1,800-mile leg to Auckland, unfortunately it, along with its captain Ed Music, who was a very famous aviator, and his 6 crew, unfortunately had to turn around, make an emergency landing due to an oil leak, and then shortly after landing, due to an eyewitness account, or based on what we know from an eyewitness account, suffered some type of explosion, and then sank about 12 miles off of the coast of American Samoa, off Tapu Tapu Point, and we hasn't been seen since. Some of the personal effects and material identified from the plane were recovered afterwards, but unfortunately due to depth they were not able to recover the plane.
So I wondered, an aircraft like the Samoan Clipper, was that a pressurized aircraft? Probably not, eh?
No, it was not pressurized.
So like 10,000 feet or so? Is that their max ceiling? I'm just like ballpark.
Maybe? I don't actually know what their max ceiling was, but no, they were definitely not pressurized.
Man, if only I had a twin-engine certified pilot near me who could answer this question.
I was just going to chime in there.
Wait, how many people in the back row are pilots already? We probably got 2 or 3.
Russ and Bonnie.
Right.
We got one.
Is Russ?
I don't know where Russ is.
Too.
Well,
So
I know, like, in our unpressurized Piper Cherokee that I fly, we can fly at 12,500 feet for 30 minutes before we need oxygen. And then you need oxygen.
I like how you say that you trail off like you're oxygen deprived.
So I'm a little sleep deprived. So.
Yeah. Have you ever heard those conversations where the pilot recognizes that the pilot or the ATC recognizes that the pilot is oxygen deprived and talks them down, like, you need to descend immediately, you know?
Oh, no,
and they just keep saying it over and over again, and then the pilot, you know, eventually comes back. It's like,
yeah,
wow, that was close.
I remember not too long ago there was a TBM that was flying, and basically they weren't responding at ATC, so they sent up like an aircraft to look at, and then they saw the guy asleep, and they were like trying to like anything.
Right, what do you do? Yeah.
They couldn't do anything, and they ended up
CFIT.
crashing.
Yeah.
Feel
That happened to
exhaustion.
the golfer Payne Stewart, I think it was. There was a sudden depressurization of his charter jet at altitude, and they all just lost consciousness.
Yeah.
Sent up
scary.
2 military jets, and it was frozen on the inside of the cockpit
Oh my
windshield.
gosh. Yeah.
And it just went to ran out of fuel, and that was it. So on that cheery topic.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are looking for the result of an aviation mishap, as we cheerfully called them in the military.
Go for it. Anticlimactic.
So for this wreck, we, if and when we find it, there is some type of plan being formed by the science team about whether we'll recover samples, and if they do so, that will be to kind of measure degradation over time. But that is completely up to the science team and what we find.
There's a lot of work that happens before we get to that point, though.
Absolutely.
One of the first things we do is kind of identify the outlying boundaries of the area that we're working in. There's a very slow process. And then we do usually high passes looking for entanglement hazards. At the end of the day, we still want to bring our 2 remotely operated vehicles back on deck.
We like them.
So we look at for all of our entanglement hazards and we map those out. So line in the water, anything buoyant, you name it, anything we're going to get trapped in. And then we go ahead and then we grid out exactly where things are and get the lay of the land. And we start looking at items of interest, and we march on from there. Step 1 is still finding it.
Yep. Just a couple things.
Yeah. And as we've learned with lots of other things we've looked for, you know, you're not looking for an airplane on the bottom. You're looking for debris, and that'll lead you. There's a much wider area of small debris than there is one big giant pile. So, like when Dr. Ballard found another vessel, you know, you find a shoe first.
Yeah. You follow the trail.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's see, where were we?
Yeah.
Just on our watch, we left off just before we were going to make a right turn, Clyde.
Oh, yeah, we were just going to start that crossing line.
Yeah.
And now we're going to start that crossing line.
Right, it's like deja vu all over again.
Yeah.
We didn't miss a beat.
Yeah, that improves our chances.
Just doing that math here, it seems
everyone
like
on the vessel want us to be successful and find it, but more than that, they want it to happen on the watch they're sitting at.
It seems like we'll reach
It's one of
that
my
target.
favorite parts. So there's a famous audio clip from when we had an encounter with a sperm whale in the Gulf of Mexico. They kept checking out the ROV. And if you listen to the audio, at one point, one of the people on watch says, "The other watches are going to be so jealous." It's not competitive. It's just you want the good stuff on your watch.
About how long before we make it to that target area in the middle?
Excellent question. It seems like if we do start, well, it depends on when we reach the bottom, but it depends on, and if we start to go and not as intended, probably only an hour or an hour and a half out.
Okay.
Great.
But that's gonna, extend based on how long it takes to get started and all that. But still, it's likely that we'll reach that target on our watch.
What depth are we at now?
2850.
Oh, we're coming close.
They said robotically.
Right. Do you ever find yourself at home, like especially with, I don't know, spouse or family member or whatever, like reading numbers to them as if you're at sea?
No, but
It's like, you know.
tell me about your experience.
You know, it's just, you know, somebody's like, hey, what did it cost to get the car fixed the other day? Oh, 289.40.
No,
Like,
never done that.
I've made that mistake.
He's planting the seed.
Yeah.
I have forced my offspring to use the metric system,
Yeah.
which they then spring on their unsuspecting mother.
That's pretty good.
They probably can drive stick shifts too.
They can.
Yeah. The millennial anti-theft device.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you, Data. You're not. Oh, let me turn you up. Are you talking to me?
Yeah, I can't hear Data either.
Data's not on SPL.
I
think that's intentional.
Okay. Say again. No. Where do you need to record that? Yeah, we can ask the bridge, or we can go out and look at it. Okay. Yep.
One of these mics has some hissing feedback. Am I the only one getting that?
That's usually SCF. If I turn him up over to, he's up at 5. How's that?
Better, thank you.
Yeah.
Hey guys, a few minutes ago you changed the screen and we lost. I forget what we had up here.
I got him way low.
We don't have. I think we had the sonar, the engineering computer, and it vanished. I don't know what you guys did, but
We put Mike. Are you on SPL?
yeah.
Can you put your mic closer to your face?
There.
Mic?
Hey.
Hi.
Hi, Mike.
Say things more.
Yeah, no, we just we don't have the engineer computer screen up anymore on the big TV. I don't know what.
We can put it up. It's not in Edge Tech mode yet, but I'll get that for you. Oh, and
No, I know.
Actually, even better than that, I'm going to teach Data how to do it.
All right.
Danger, danger. Don't touch that button.
When we left off, we were at like 3,200-ish, 3,250. I feel like.
Let me see if it was
right down.
It was recorded on the other sheet.
Should be on the gauge check sheet.
Huh. You did that right, yeah, before.
Somewhere in there.
3271 meters.
3271.
Close to 33. Sweet.
If you take a look at this screen, we'll be kind of going along contours more or less. A little bit slightly upslope, but it's going to be a
flat.
Yeah. Until we get.
Oh man, this is going to be awesome.
Toggle tracking. Until we get to the target, and then it's pretty much lateral along the slope.
Roger. So my heading now is.
There it is.
Oh,
7.5.
Yes, you'll want 080 once we once we get moving. That's what these lines are drawn at.
Cool.
Pretty much there now. Right?
Yeah.
Plus or minus 10.
So you'll probably have to pay out at first as we start to gain distance away from the ship, but then super gradual paying in, I would think.
Sounds
up the slope.
Good. Did you guys do any post-processing of the side scan yet, or?
That would
I
be
guess
Mike.
that's a Mike question.
Yeah.
No, I didn't do any yet. I'll probably take a crack at that tomorrow after after shift.
Is this your official watch? Are you on watch with us?
No.
This is an unofficial watch.
I'm up here to make sure that the sonar is working again and everything looks good. I thought we were going to be down on the bottom like around 3, like close to my watch, but you guys got in the water early, which is great. So the whole sleeping thing didn't work as well as it did.
No sleep for the chief scientist.
It's only a 6-day job. We sleep when we hit the beach.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
Sleep on the transit, right, Randy?
Yeah.
Well, that's going to happen anyway. There's a lot more swell than I expected, and I was just like, oh, I need to take one of my bowlines and lay down for a minute.
So that might be this right here in a sub-bottom, that's the first false return. So that's usually at around 200 meters off. Which makes sense according to our depth estimates.
So let me try something here.
So once we get to the bottom and get set up, I'll shift our streams over to what we had before, so people at home can watch these pieces show up on our side scan as we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Negative change.
No.
You'll also most likely see the bottom view of Argus.
Yeah. So we'll do those and maybe put sonar up there as well.
This could possibly be the USBL.
Yeah.
The little yellow.
Those are chirps.
Blips because they're about as they're every 6 seconds.
I think our temperature's way down. Where'd that light go?
Yeah, it's way cooler than earlier.
I'll time it and then we'll know for sure. Huh? It's every 3 seconds.
Is it frequent?
So that's, let me see what we're set at here. Nope, yep, every 3. That is the little yellow dots should be the USBL.
Guess I shouldn't have touched that button.
Yeah, this was what happened before when you were on deck waiting for us. I got a joke for that. I tell it every year. It's happening again. So you've got 4 engineers, a computer engineer or an IT guy, a mechanical engineer, a chemical engineer, and an electrical engineer.
Wait, that's 5.
Oh, I said computer or IT. It's like the same thing to me, whatever. So they all get in a car, and the car won't start. So the mechanical engineer is like, oh, it's the starter. We got a bad starter. Got to replace it. The chemical engineer is like, oh, it's bad fuel. Somebody put diesel in the gas engine. Got to change the fuel. The electrical engineer is like, oh, battery's dead. Got to get a new battery or recharge it. And the computer engineer goes, why don't we all get out and then get back in again?
Summer.
Killed it. So relatable.
So there's a computer engineer headed home from work, and his wife sends him a text and says, hey, on your way home, stop at the store and get a gallon of milk, and if they have eggs, get 6. And he walks in the front door, and he's got 6 gallons of milk.
Yeah.
And his wife goes, what are you doing? He goes, they had eggs.
That's so good.
Sonar is officially stuck on stupid.
Get out of the car and get back in again. That's what we had to do. We had to reboot the computer last time.
No, and then, wait, was that? I don't know what watch I was on.
You were there.
Yeah, Trevor.
Yeah.
Instead of doing restart, he did shutdown, and we had to find the computer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
Oh, that's
But it worked after that.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. You said what makes it angry is just shutting it down without stopping it after like we come back and recover.
Oh, which you
Seemed
probably
like
did.
do a restart.
Yeah.
Although I think it's we found it in rack C3 at like position 9.
Well, at least
Wow,
now you
for
know
not
that.
having any sleep, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's I know where. Yeah.
Well, at least things are labeled now. Years ago, it was all up here and like none of it was labeled. There's just a rat's nest back there.
Yeah, there's been a lot of work done in that rack.
Yeah.
All right, we're getting bottom return.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I will. Keep that on.
Is that an IP head or is it a 232 head?
I'll say. I want to say 232, but 2 meters per division. What's streaming out right now?
Right now we're streaming on satellite channel 1. We've got Argus Zeus camera. On 2 we've got Cam Scion. On 3 we've got sonar.
Sweet.
And we're about to have PC1, which is being fed with Engineer. And then
We're
we're
only
going to
at
have
2 meters per division.
Argus Zeus on 2, and we'll probably leave sonar on 3. So people know what this control room looks like.
Awesome.
So just out of curiosity, how do you read the sonar chart? What's showing up on the sonar screen right now? That's, I think, Psi2.
Oh, yeah, so you're asking where it shows up?
Or
You mean this one?
It's
up here?
PC2.
yeah, just like, is there anything I should be looking for? How do you read the actual data
So
itself?
basically a sonar is you're in the middle of the circle,
Right.
and it's telling you what's around you. What's forward is up top. What's behind you is at the bottom.
And then for HF data display or LF,
and then
that's just frequency?
in the GUI for it, hold on, let me see if I can call it up over here.
Wait,
real
which
quick.
which sonar are we talking
So,
about? The
yeah,
scanning or
we're
the?
actually no, he's
Yeah.
looking at the sub-bottom screen right now.
So, okay.
Oh, sub,
So
yeah.
this is, it's basically just pinging straight down.
Okay.
And it's a depth finder, like kind of like you have a fish finder on a fishing boat. And so this bright yellow line that we're seeing is the sonar starting to pick up the seabed.
Ah, gotcha.
So it's basically, we're using it, it's a
What's
sub-bottom.
our
so
gain at?
we never actually
that?
got it
Is there, are we
calibrated
gained up
ever.
or something?
It's really
it
just used
doesn't
as an
seem,
altimeter on Argus.
Doesn't seem like it.
And that's what we're looking for here to make sure we know
Haven't
where the
seen that
bottom is
before.
before we
Mine
drop
either.
right into it.
Ah,
Look
gotcha.
at that.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Mike.
Now the other sonar,
Just
which is
defaults to
right
it,
underneath
so
Argus,
weird.
and that's what's the
Where
big
is it?
circle on the
Oh,
over
okay,
there.
yeah.
That's scanning around us, and it's a range. You guys have the range to like 50 meters?
It's at 200 meters currently.
200 meters, and then you can detect objects or whatever that are
Heading.
obstructions or something like
You
that.
are
So
in
that's
error.
that's forward and backward looking to see what's around
Oh, that's
you.
right. That
And
boots
is
that way
on
all the
Argus
time,
or
doesn't
Nautilus?
That's all of this is off Argus.
Comes
Okay.
up default.
Thank you.
With that heading.
it? Yeah.
Cool. We should mark that down and talk to Trevor about it because he's crawled into this and he might know a bit better if there's a legacy reason for that or
And that little guy's the
if
one
that should be
bumped
reset.
free when we
It needs
that
to
they
be
had to
reset.
fix when we
I
came
looked
out.
at the head when he
Gotcha.
took it off, and it looked like the mark was forward.
Yeah. So
Ruben, if you're watching, this one's for you.
that would be in the Herc, the reverse direction.
He can't stand it when it goes
Neither can I.
counterclockwise.
It's got to go that way. This is the correct one.
That one's for you.
All right, Summer, where are we at? 650.
50-ish, 60-ish.
It's a little early for Ruben. It's 4:30 in the morning there.
Yeah, but he's
Maybe he's an early riser.
he is early.
He's got what's his dog name? Lobo. Thank
Can
you.
I change this?
Oh please.
Out for a walk.
Yeah.
$50 meters range.
Roger.
Yeah, so that whole arg preset we should fix that in there and save it so it always opens up to be the right.
I just resave it as
All right, 30 meters up.
I'll do it later when I'm bored.
Yeah.
When we're not in danger of.
Okay, let's see how well Trevor
Augury.
really knows those menus. Set the language to simplified Chinese.
Okay, so what are we slowly going down to
Going
15,
to
10?
I am all stop right now. We're gonna keep going down. We like 10 meters altitude still.
Yeah, we're looking between 10 and 15.
Okay, I'm gonna keep coming
Do you
down.
mind if I pull up the side scan over the
Yes,
sub
yes
bottom
you
then?
can.
Right. Ooh, that's bright.
Ooh.
All right, good.
Is
We
that
got
better?
right.
Where
That's
or
okay
too
though.
bright?
All right.
Oh,
coming
the
down.
gains are way up.
I am going to.
I put the sympathy palette on for the side scan there.
So our sub bottom is off, and now we're doing.
I changed altimeter. Yeah.
Altimeter, Roger. I'm just gonna
Okay.
log on bottom now because
All right.
we're good enough. On bottom,
On bottom logged.
Roger.
So I see the sea floor. Barely.
Yep.
There it is.
There it is.
We're 11 meters up.
I can bring some of my gain out now.
My heading is pretty close.
Yeah, I don't.
All right, I'm gonna wait to start recording this until we're moving. But we're looking pretty good in the side scan.
I'm gonna go ahead and switch up my streams then.
All right, I'm on 0, 0 heading.
So now at home you can see the side scan sonar, and you can also see Argus's camera, which is pointed directly below it. So you can see the seafloor. Doesn't have quite the same range as the sonar, but
Okay, are we all good to go? We think.
Argus is ready.
Video's ready.
Good to go back there, Mike?
Grab your.
Yeah.
I'll do
Okay.
your check sheet on bottom. Check sheet.
Bridge nav. We'd like to track along the selected line, bearing 080, speed 1 knot. Thank you.
Should I record this as line start?
Yeah, go ahead and do that.
All right.
See how long it takes Argus to
And I'm
start
gonna start
moving.
recording now.
so something you'll notice when you're watching at home that you don't typically see is, as you watch Argus's camera, you can see us kind of bobbing up and down above it. And since we have just Argus in it, and we're not seeing the bottom through the eyes of Hercules, Argus is tethered directly to the ship, just like Hercules, but Argus doesn't have anything above it.
Do you have your aft thruster enabled? Maybe, yeah. And so we had that, and then the port cathex, and that was, there we go.
Oh, that's better.
That cleared things up. Yeah.
Yeah, that looks way better.
Can you make out the number on that gauge on 13?
Oh, you can punch bubble up over here, and it'll take it up there.
Bubble?
Oh, sorry. Not bubble. I can do it from here, though, but we can put it up on the winch thing.
And that's a better monitor resolution? Or?
Yeah.
I was joking.
I'm trying to keep that little dot in view for your timing. Are you still running that?
Sorry, what do you want? The ship just started moving. For Argus to move any? 4 minutes. Did you already started it? No, it's more like, I think it's 2 minutes. But four seems excessive.
I don't know. I can't tell you that. I'd stick with 4.
Go ahead, Bridge.
It's a cool jelly.
What do you think, Peyton?
Yes, okay, thank you.
It's pretty rad. Took a screen grab.
Nice.
It's really interesting that their tentacles. Oh, hello.
Whoa.
What?
Their tentacles
What do they
are
call that
spread.
shot in horror movies? The jump shot or whatever?
Jump scare.
Jump scare.
It knows we're talking about it.
Yeah. It's
That's us
interesting how,
stirring
like,
up that sediment.
horizontally its tentacles spread, because it's trying to catch all of the marine snow that's drifting down. Yeah.
Yeah, now it's getting hard.
I do not. I can call lounge and check.
What do you need?
Feels like we're starting to move, but we silted out my reference point.
Sorry, and I tilted down the camera.
I can go have a look for it. I can go have a look.
I got another reference point.
Rennie may have nailed it.
I mean, we're moving very slowly, but we're moving now.
Dude.
How long?
3 minutes, 30 seconds.
Huh.
3:37.
That's not a linear. I've done work at 6,000 meters, and it takes so much longer than that.
Rennie, you like nailed it. 3:40.
I don't think I've ever timed it. It's just guessing at when we start.
Well, you're not fired today.
Yeah.
Keep your job. One more day.
When I call in a move, if we're stationary and we're this deep and I call in a 10-meter move to Argus, it takes a little bit of time to go in.
So guys, this is wanting to number things sequentially.
Yeah, it's hard to hear you, bro. Wait. Is that Mike? Yeah,
Do you have me turned all the way down?
Yeah, there you go. Let me give you a little more boost here.
Sorry, Mike, what'd you need?
No, I'm talking to Peyton.
There you go.
All right, got it. Are we? So we're starting at target 1.
I'm trying to figure that out. Sequence. This might be where we put this. Let me see if that works. I'm going to save a fake target.
Roger.
So it's right click and then this pops up.
Somewhere, I want you to remember that.
And I go save.
That I was right about that. You can just
Come
pass that on
here,
to
and
everyone.
it says seems unhappy with that. Okay, so that was not correct.
Right.
Yeah, so that didn't. That's
Right,
okay.
so
that
we
didn't do what I
have-
wanted it to do.
That's our large rock, right? Corresponding with that, right?
So I thought I put in.
Can I turn the scan speed up?
That was not right. So
Dad's not here. I can do whatever I want.
we're just gonna call it 8. I don't know why we can't do that.
That's right.
So yeah, the next one's gonna be 8. So I thought that I could put the dive number in and it would call it that, but it doesn't. I'm not very happy with that idea. I think the way we did it in the past was to have each
Big ol' rock.
each dive we dumped all the data off the drive and made folders, but since we haven't, we got back in the water real quick, we'll just call it 8.
Sure.
Most importantly, we're not overwriting it.
So go with R1056_8.
Yep.
for the-
Yeah.
for the
'Cause
ongoing
I
targets.
can't seem to get the Discover software to label it with the dive number, so it's wanting to do everything sequentially and will probably overwrite itself, which we don't want. So we're just going to call it 8.
8.
Oh,
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah. Whenever we find a target.
Yeah. There's something sticking up straight on the rock on the left. I don't think it's in view anymore.
Might have been a coral.
we have so many joke buttons around here. I wasn't sure which one you were referring to.
All right, so we got bottom track going. We got recording started. Targets are weird, but working.
Nav.
Yes.
Earlier you mentioned there was a -80 beeping in the gym. What is it? What is a -80?
The freezer.
Oh, okay.
It's minus 80 degrees Celsius.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
For storing biological samples.
Yeah, we use it quite a bit when we side scan.
Well, samples are done when it
Yeah.
beeps. It's telling you they're done.
All right, Mike.
Yeah. There may be something in there from previous cruises because.
Yeah.
But see what Dan has to say about it.